Hello and welcome back to Mentium. This is the first episode in our brand new series, Stories of Impact. This season, we're diving deep into the lives and journeys of people who are not only achieving success, but using it to empower others, lift up communities, but also creating lasting change. My guest today is simply a shining example of exactly that. Papa Marito Ja is a dedicated community leader, a social entrepreneur, and a change maker. Originally from Senegal, he has made an incredible impact here in Denver, Colorado. And I am honored to have him today as the first guest in this series. Through his work, he's been very instrumental in supporting immigrant communities, fostering economic empowerment, but also showing what's possible when people come together, combine vision, hard work, and a heart for service. Without any further ado, I will introduce to you the one and only Papa Marito Ja. Hello there, beautiful people. Thank you so much for tuning in to Mentium, the podcast that takes you on a journey to unlock the full potential of your mind. My name is Majama. I will be your host and your guide on this adventure into the fascinating realm of mindset, mental fitness, and personal growth. In each episode, I dive deep into the intricacies of the human mind, exploring the power of positive thinking, resilience, and the strategies to cultivate a mindset that propels you towards success. So, buckle up for a journey of self discovery, empowerment, and transformation. Get ready to unleash the power of your mind with Mentium. Papa Ja, welcome to Mentium Podcast.
Well, thank you so much, Professor. Thank you for welcoming in amazing podcast. This will be the most interesting interview that I will be doing so far in my life, and for many reasons. And as we go through this interview, you will understand why I am saying that. If you have somebody that's interviewing you, that everything that he's going to be asking you about you has played a vital role, has been along your side, and to come back and being interviewed by that person, I wouldn't know where to start but to tell you how grateful I am and how honored I am to be the first guest of Mentium Broadcast, hoping that not only I'll be learning, but all the story that we're going to be sharing here will be impacting and changing life, because that's what you and are, what we are about. So thank you for the honor, and I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, now, Papa, let's dive deep into it. I want you to share a little bit about your journey. First of all, starting from back home in Senegal, but also what led you to immigrate to the US, but especially landing here in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, for anybody that get to watch this video and listen to this amazing interview, and again, I just want to echo the fact that this platform and the vision and the goal is just impressive in the sense where there's so much to learn in this life. And I want to start by telling you everything that you are trying to do right now, wherever you are in your life, somebody has done it, somebody has tried. And if you have the opportunity to be in a platform where you're hearing stories, journeys of people, you gotta consider yourself very lucky, because you're gonna learn something. So my journey, it's unique to myself, but you can see it in a lot of other people's journey in life. Similar, very similar to most immigrant coming from a very humble beginning, poor background, a family of 23 children. My mom had 13 kids of her own. My mom never worked in her life. She was busy raising us. My dad' salary was about $30 a month back then. So raising a family of that many children on a $30 monthly income You can imagine how difficult it was. So we were poor, and I said this. I just remember vividly growing up chasing my next meal because you might have breakfast, but you wouldn't know where lunch would be coming from. Um, Now, education was not a priority because if you are in a survival mode, you cannot consider other things, right? So my upbringing was always evolving around, food, eating, where do we eat, where the next meal going to be coming from, having a small bedroom, that one bed that you will share with eight brothers, um, and remembering that in a small town that we lived in, Chess, we moved 17 times. Why? Because dad was never able to pay the rent. So you will be somewhere for 6 months, and an eviction notice will come, and you got to move somewhere else. And when you are in a process like that, and you got to change school, um, electricity was not a thing, running water was not a thing. So yeah, I mean, the upbringing was was interesting, but the most important part of it is, as challenging that it might sound to a lot of people now, as but for me, for us back then, we were rich. We had a family, we had each other, we were happy. So I did not realize how poor we were until later on in my life, right? So and this goes until that I turned probably 21. That when things start changing a little bit. By the time I turned 21, we already moved more than 12 times, changed school, right? Now, in this situation, I remember just seeing my mom all the time, how this woman would wake up at 5 in the morning and do laundry, prepare the little kid that was going to school and going to the market and coming. For some reason, she's been the only person present. I could only see every day how she was suffering, and that was my motivation. My motivation was to how do I do well and put my mom in a better situation, right? So that was my source of motivation, even though I was the only one that went to college. I was the only one that was studying. For the rest, education was not a priority. I couldn't tell you until now why I decided to just pursue education. There was just a source of motivation that I could not explain. But now, again, no electricity. I remember that I would walk sometimes miles to go wherever I can find a light on the street to sit under to do homework. Um, and I remember a time that I'll be reading my books, and next thing you know, you will see tears dropping off on the book, and it's just the suffering, there's crying, but at the same time, that source of motivation. Now, at some point, dad just gave up because he just couldn't pay the rent. So we moving into my grandparents' house. So we were there were about 20 of us and moving into my uncle and aunt that was already another 15 people in that household, not enough room. So obviously we were not welcome in that space, even though they were uncle and aunties, but we were not welcome. They were not happy that we were in their space. And I remember a time I will come and try to find my books to do my homework. They will be gone. Why? Because my uncle will use them to make fuel for charcoal to make tea, right? Again, to be in that environment where education was not valued, they couldn't even apprehend the damage they were causing. And I was in the class to prepare for an exam. But again, it felt like it was the challenges that never end, right? It's one thing after another, but for some odd reason,
Mm.
God will always give me the, I don't want to say the strength or the wisdom, but somehow things were just being taken care of in a way that I can overcome those challenges. Now, as tough it was, because you hear me talk about all the challenges, right? All the struggle. But let me mention a couple of things that for me, they were beautiful memories, right? In this situation. Remember, I told you that my mom had 13 kids on her own,
Mm-hmm.
and we're like a year apart, right? A year apart, right? Says there's about 8 boys and 5 girls. And the beauty of we were so close, right? We did everything together. My older brother, that's 1 year older than me, we like twins, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we did everything together. And today, if I look back and look now, the relationship we have today, the bond that we have,
Mm-hmm.
it came from the struggle,
Absolutely.
came from the suffering. So I wouldn't change a thing into that upbringing because it really make me who I am today. It make me cherish the family value. Now, another thing that you will need to keep in mind, because
Mm-hmm.
when you grow up in such an environment where you don't have much, but it forces you to share everything that you have. So I remember in order for me to go to school, I had to wait for brother to come, take off pants, shoes, I put it on and go to school. As challenging it might sound to some of you, those value of sharing was taught at early age and sharing with love and appreciation.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So for me, I'm grateful for that upbringing. Um, I wouldn't change a thing about it. And today I'm proud to came from that family. You did not hear me talk about much about dad in the picture because dad has more than one wife, polygamous family, and dad usually is not in the picture. Dad will do their best to provide, and they're not around. So other Senegalese or African can relate to what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean that he did not have much care for us, but he was busy trying to figure out how
To
do I
make.
bring that bag of rice. So he
Yeah.
was never around and involved. And something that I did not understand growing up. So I always bitter with my father. And the question that I always ask, why did you bring me into this world if you wouldn't even care for me? If you wouldn't even provide the basic minimum to your children? And today, one of my biggest regrets is um, having that anger toward my father and keeping it for so long. And today, he's not with us. And as a father now, there's a lot
Mm.
of things I understand now that I couldn't understand back then.
True.
I wish I could go back and change a couple of things and have a couple of words with him, but that's another lesson to learn, right?
Absolutely.
So sometimes we are in that judgmental mindset without knowing and understanding, but that's another piece of information that I would like to share with you.
Mm-hmm.
So, wherever you are at a specific moment, you might think like you know it all. You never do.
Papa, you know, for somebody who's been around you for at least, I should say, 23 years now, I heard this story maybe many times, but every time I hear you say it, it just brings me back a lot of memories as well. Growing up as a child, I mean, we're not really very far apart in terms of upbringing, but I would always admire the appreciations that you would always have for your mom. But I would like to go back a little bit to Senegal. What was the trigger? What was the one thing that made you say, enough is enough? I am going to leave this country because I wanted to have something better to take care of my mom and my siblings.
You know, Professor, it's going to be very, very hard to do this interview without emotion. I'm going to try to do my best,
Please do.
but I'm going to try because for many reasons. Um, One is the relationship we have, and 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 some of the things that we share, and the appreciation you have for me to have who have I became today, and going back to this deep scar, and it's never fun, right? Going back in memory, and sometimes we want to move forward and put the past behind us, but at the same time we have a lot of appreciation about the past because that's what made us. So we'll do our best, but right
The
now,
family.
just for you to know, I
Yeah.
feel the emotion right here, right? So look, my mom is one of the main reasons, uh, and I've tried everything. So I was the one in the household that people might think see me very outgoing today, but I was an introvert. I was always in my corner. I was always angry. I was always bitter. And and I try everything. I never consider myself as a smart person. I never consider myself as a smart student, but I work hard. I spend all night studying. And I remember my mom, for some reason, she had hope. And when I was doing my middle uh, class, whatever, so when you pass your first exam, we call it entrance exam to go to middle school or high school.
Mm-hmm.
So she made me feel like, okay, this is all I need. Just go pass it, and I'll buy you a bike. So I put everything that I could to pass that exam. And back then, when the result come out, we have your name on the newspaper.
That is true.
Yes, and I see the pride when the newspaper came out. My name was on the newspaper. Actually, my mom kept that newspaper later, and everybody. I mean, to see the joy and
Yes.
the pride in her face and in my family. I mean, I just said, I can't fail. I just can't, right? I just can't. And I remember I was the only one until now. I'm the only one in my family that passed that exam. Now, to go on to go to middle school and go and do the secondary exam, the only one that passed it also. And again, anytime I work very hard to pass this exam, I thought that was it. A job is in the horizon,
Yep.
then I'll be able to take care of the family. Now, there's a next exam that you got to do, right? So even when I was, and you know how it is to pass the exam to go to college, university, that's very hard. That exam, I even passed it a year before because I was such in a hurry, right? I was taking two classes. I was going to premiere at the same time I was taking courses in terminal because I wanted to get that exam. Because for me, again, I
Yep.
thought when I pass this exam, I go to university, done. Then when I get to university, that's when the real things hit. Why? It was the first time that I had to leave my family because at that time we only have one university in Senegal,
And I
which
was
was
in
in
the car.
Dakar.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to leave my family and go to Dakar. Now, I did not have scholarship. I did not have family where I could stay. I was pretty much on the street until I was able to figure out a room to rent.
Wow.
When I go to college, the first courses, an amphitheater that's supposed to host 700 students, we were 3,000 students
I remember those days.
in the amphitheater. Couldn't even have, and I said, that's it. I mean, look. So, but in the process, I almost joined the army, very close in joining the army.
Really?
Yes, yes, very
Papa
close.
in the army.
And the army, I almost became a teacher, all the way in the pursuit of something to provide for the family. But it's one of those things, every door, when you feel like I'm about to enter, the door will shut right on your face in the loudest manner possible.
Mm.
And that's when I said, look, it's done. Now, in the pursuit of trying to figure out something,
Mm-hmm.
I was able to land a job at the Peace Corps as a language teacher. And again, and trying other things, because even when I was in college, I was selling cleaning supply. I was going from houses to houses, not to sell cleaning supply. I would go to buy the wholesale price at the market, always trying to figure out a way to make a dime, right? And later I get a chance to land a job as a language teacher at the Peace Corps, making $200 a month. And I remember the first salary that I got, that entire salary, with a lot of pride and tears, I gave it to my mother. And my family and my journey, my story, you will see everything always evolved around a bag of rice.
Mm.
And when you buy a bag of rice for the family, it's a big thing.
It
It's a
is a
huge
big deal.
achievement, right?
Yes.
So my mom, until nowadays, she talk about the first bag of rice that I bought for her. And keep in mind, until now, today, I still buy those bag of rice for her. So, but for me, that was the point where I said, you know what, that's it. I gotta figure out something else.
Listening to this, I think that is the purpose of this podcast, to start with the journeys, the stories, so that people understand what the foundation was that led to what you were doing right now. And that's the reason why I thought it was important for you to share that story, so that now we can leave Senegal. We're in the US. When you first got here, what were the challenges that you faced starting from scratch in a country where you did not speak the language, and certainly you didn't know many people, if any? How was it like for you to navigate the new system of your host country now?
Yeah, in fact, the challenges started even before I got here. And the reason I said that, it's when I had the visa and I had to come to America, my entire family, the entire village, the entire community, every single one of them thought the issue will be
It's
solved
not. Yep.
forever because Papa is going to America. Would not have an issue of rice, will never have an issue. In fact, we'll have a new house, we'll have a car. And naive that I was, I made all those promises. I made all those promises. Okay, oh, when I go, okay, I'll buy you this. Because the perception we have about the United States of America before we got here, we think like you
Mm-hmm.
come and you become rich overnight. You pick money,
Absolutely.
and this is the honest truth. This is the honest truth. So I made all this promise before I got here.
I hear you.
So, and remember, I never flew in an airplane before. I never went to the airport. Never, never. And this is the time when we had Air Afrique.
Mm.
So the
I
kids
remember.
might not know that airline, and uh, and we call it. I remember we used to call it Air Peut-être, meaning maybe you will fly, maybe you won't,
Maybe you
even though you
want.
have
Yep.
your
Air
ticket,
protector.
right? So
Absolutely.
obviously, I get to the with all my excitement, and when I was going to the airport, the entire village went with me to the airport because this is how they do it. About
Yes.
30 people get to the airport. And I did my goodbye and thank you and cry and all these things. Guess what?
You didn't go.
The flight was They said like come back next day. I had
Oh,
to
wow.
now go back home, and you see the excitement and things like that. So that's why I was saying the struggles and all these things are very important lesson to learn. We'll talk about
Mhm.
it later. And now later, so the other challenges that I face being because I flew from Dakar to Lisbon, I get to Lisbon, I miss my connection flight. So I had to spend 2 nights in the airport in Lisbon because I did not have a visa to get out of the airport. Uh, the next day, get a flight to come to New York. Professor, my backbone was hurting. I never sat in a long flight. I mean, it's just I was in pain. Now, this was in July. Now, coming to America, you think like you're gonna come, it's gonna be freezing cold. This is the African living Africa having layers and layers and layers of clothes. And I get to New York and guess what? 80 degrees, the heat. Obviously, all of a sudden you start smelling smoke because the heat that you are burning inside. So so this is another thing. Now you got to New York, professor. You get to the space where nobody has time for nobody else.
That is true.
And I cannot read the sign. I don't know where do I get to get my luggage. It was a whole different world. And now keep in mind also the perception we have about America before we got here with gang and violence. And I thought that was it for me, right? So the struggle kicked in and I got here. Now all of a sudden you got to navigate a whole different system, a whole different life. Now, in my mind, all I was looking for is to land a job, not a
Rightfully so.
professional career, not even to go to school, none of the things, because I had about 50 people waiting for me to send the bag of rice that I promised. Okay.
And much more.
And much more. Now,
Mhm.
the urgency of finding something that you couldn't find because you don't speak the language, right? The urgency of really trying to figure out how do you communicate. I doubted myself the beginning. I thought this was a mistake because at least back home I had my family.
Mhm.
Here I had nobody. So you have those challenges of the language barrier, the culture barrier that you got to navigate, not knowing where to go to get things. But again, this is why your upbringing is important.
Yeah.
So I was raised to never give up. I was raised to always seek that opportunity. I was raised to always keep in mind that I'm not only responsible for myself,
Wow.
but there's a lot of other people that I'm responsible for. So when you make certain decisions, you don't make it because it just doesn't impact you by yourself. There's a lot of other people involved in the picture. So that's what led me to overcome those challenges and getting to a first job and all these things to but the challenges were real. But again, one thing you're going to hear me say all the time throughout this podcast is how grateful I am for those challenges.
Absolutely.
Because again, that contributed to build the man I am today.
Well, can you touch on a little bit about your first job? How was it like? Where was it? And how did it really shape the person you are today?
So keep in mind, I arrived in the United States on July 28, 1998. Okay, that's when I arrived in the United States. And I did not get my first job until December. So you have July, August, September, October, November, December. So it took me an entire 6 months
Mhm.
to finally have a job. Why? Because I couldn't speak the language. I didn't know my way around. Uh, you name it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I landed my first job on pure accident because I just walked into the place, and this was a bookstore, which is today one of the things that I am mostly grateful for is the job.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the process, when I got here, I met all the African or the Senegalese, and people were telling me, and a lot of people don't know this. I almost work at the airport. I almost work at the airport. I did the training and everything because I knew I met some Senegalese. They were working at the airport. They took me over there. I applied, went to the training, and I was doing a luggage carrier. That's what I was doing. The plane land, the people that got the luggage, and so that's what I was going to do.
Mm-hmm.
But when I went to this bookstore, and this was around Christmas, I applied for the job. They hired me to work at the bookstore, and they were paying me $5.25. Now, this was around Christmas. They hire me as somebody that's going to be stocking the books, right? It's a very big bookstore, tattered covers. Some of you might be familiar with that.
That would go, yes.
Yeah, my job was I would take the carts with books and go to shelve it from section to section, fiction, nonfiction, science fiction. But that job was offering me $5.25. Now,
Papa, how did you make the decision going to tattered cover to make $5 an hour, five something an hour? Like, what led you to that decision?
very, very, very good question, Professor. So, one of the things growing up that my dad taught us, and he was very strict about it, he would say, I don't care how poor you are, but I always expect you to look good and clean. So, growing up, so there was a sense of pride
Mm-hmm.
for us to never showcase how poor we are. So my dad wanted to make sure when we leave the house, we are neatly dressed up, clean. So growing up, that's something that was very important to us. Even now, I went to college, I was studying law. When I was going to campus, it's always looking. So in the back of my head, dressing up and looking presentable was important. First thing. For some reason, being in a professional setting was important to me because
Okay.
of what I remember about my father.
Okay.
So I made that decision, the fact that in this bookstore, it was a professional setting. I get to meet with other professional professors, teachers, bankers, and I get to dress up. But also, it was not far from where I was living, taking the bus.
Mm.
Okay, can you then talk about what that particular job? Can you tell me a little bit about how it helped you secure your second job in which you lasted over maybe 18 years plus?
Yeah, one of the most important things in any country or any place, wherever you go, is to be able to communicate. And when we say
That
communicate, we
part.
mean speaking the language
Like, yep.
that people in that country or in that nation speaks and understand.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a lot of things that goes into putting you in a position to be able to speak the language. Now, keep
Mm-hmm.
in mind, I came here, I spoke French, I spoke Wolof, very eloquent in French as a law student, but did not speak English. In this job, I'm surrounded by what? Books.
Books. Yep.
I'm surrounded by what? Professional people that speak proper English. Now, when you hear me speak English until now, and again, sometimes I'm very hesitant to share this because I don't think it's a good example to take.
Mm-hmm.
But I never went to school in America. I have no degree here. Never went to school. But my surrounding, including that bookstore early on, allow me to build the skill set that I needed, that job was the foundation of my journey in this country. And
Yeah.
this can relate to a proverb or a saying. Always remember this. It does not matter where you start. Always pay attention
The way
where
you
you
go.
could finish.
Mm-hmm.
So you might start somewhere where you feel like, oh my goodness. But if you look at it and see the potential and how it's going to prepare you, later on you will be grateful. So really don't make a and yeah, where we start, actually it matters. It matters.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as you have the plan knowing where it's going to get you.
Okay.
Okay. So for me, that's how the impact that the job had in my journey.
Papa, I know going to this interview that it will not be something short because when you and I meet, we have a lot of things to talk about, and you have such a rich background in history in this country that I don't think we can cover everything in 60 minutes. That was the aim. I would have to give up on that because before we talk about the impact, what you've really done for the community at large in this country, I think for me, you were the first one to really break those barriers. Personally, I would only get involved with people from Senegal until you came around with ALG, and then the rest is history. But I wanted, before we go into the impact story, really you tell me a little bit about the bank, because I believe that that's where everything started. You started as a teller from a bank. In the course of 18 years, you finish at the top level being the vice president of not only one bank, but you did it once, do it again and again. Like, can you briefly describe what the journey was like, but also how did it shape your community leadership?
Yes, Professor, there's a lot of things that I've never shared with people because, like you said, there's so much in the history, in the upbringing. You know, what I want to start with your question. There's God into everything that I do today and who I am today. Now, and
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to make this religious to whoever is going to listen to this, but I believe that we all have a unique relationship with whoever we call God and whoever that we believe in. But for me, the banking journey started even before I started working at the bank. Remember, I share with you my upbringing, how my father was very strict into how we look. So my dad, if you see him, you will never see him without a suit and a tie. And as a child growing up, we all have an image of our father, of our parents, because we grew up and we want to mirror ourselves through their images, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So I always had that in the back of my mind that wanted to mirror myself through the image of my father wearing a suit and a tie. And today, all of my brother, if you see all of us, you won't see us without a suit and a tie because it came from our father.
I noticed that.
This is just how. So for me, this is something that I always envision in my mind a job where I would wear a suit and a tie. Professor, this is what's crazy about your question. When I was working at the bookstore, because at some point I was working downtown, I will take the bus, and when I go to the bookstore, I will walk through the bank. And when I walk through the bank, I will see those teller behind the teller line wearing a white shirt and a red tie. It deep inside, I will pray to God. I will pray deeply. God, please,
To
I'm
be there
praying
someday.
seriously. I
Mm-hmm.
saw myself behind that counter wearing the white shirt and the red tie. before I've never shared this story with anybody, by the way, before I even start working at the bank. So, Professor, I end up not only working at the bank, where I picture that young man standing, I end up standing over there wearing the shirt and the tie doing the job.
Isn't that the power of visualization?
You call it whatever you want to call it. So
Wow.
I am saying this to say, wherever you are, don't underestimate the power of your mind, the power of your visualization, the power of the law of attraction, your relationship with God, whatever it is. I'm a firm believer, as much Professor is a firm believer, that everything that we're trying to do, we're trying to get is already done. We just
Mm.
and get it. So this is another conversation, another thing that at a different time. So we don't,
Yeah.
yeah, another thing. So, and for me, Professor, when I enter working at the bank, and again, I remember it's crazy because the reason that I apply at the bank again, so when I get my check at the bookstore, I used to go across
And
the
then,
street to
yeah.
cash your check.
Yes.
So I went to still remember today the lady that was her name is Holly Okomura. She's the teller that waited on me, and I came and I was cashing my check. So I did not know where to sign. I signed on the memo line because I never had a check before, right?
Mm.
So she showed me, and she's a very, very pleasant lady. Until now, we are friends, right? Very pleasant. She showed me where to sign, and I told her in my broken English, I really would like to work here as a teller. Oh, really? She pulled out the application, fill it out, and I signed, and they sent the application. 2 days later, I was called for a group interview. So I went to this interview. This was a group interview. There was about 13 applicants. And I remember when I was doing this group interview, again, keeping my father in mind, I went to Goodwill and I bought a pair of suits, very nice, for $5, a pants and a jacket and a shirt. I wore it and I went to this interview. It was a group interview. There was 13 applicants, 5 managers. I can guarantee you that 90% of what they were saying, because they spoke very fast, I did not understand. At some point, one of the manager called and they were doing a role play. So she was playing to be the mean customer and I was supposed to be the teller. And I got to showcase how do I handle a situation like that.
Hmm.
All I did is smile at her because I could not quite understand what she was telling me.
Oh my gosh.
So I left Professor, that manager, again, a mother to me until today. Her name is Johnny Lehi. They call me, they offer me the bank teller job. So, and they will pay me $8.75. So I went from $5.25 to $8.70. Professor, this was the first time in my life until nowadays that I got so happy that I was literally dancing. Not because of the money, but this was the dream job for
That was
me.
the dream job. That's what you visualized.
This is what I visualized: the suit, the tie, the environment. That was it. I I went into that building, and Professor, I never looked back. Never look back.
Papa, I wanted you to touch on that a little more, like for somebody who just got here, because we have a lot of immigrants newly arriving right now. Hearing this story can really give them hope because you went from a teller, not even recognizing the coins, from there to being vice president of the bank. That's what I want to hear. Like talk about that journey and what did it do for you?
Yeah, the first thing I will say, and to all the immigrant that's listening, or even the native, you got to understand there's a lot of people in Africa or around the world that their dream is to come to this great nation. That's their dream. And people are willing to pay money to do whatever it takes, but they're not here. Guess what? You are here. You, yourself, you are in the United States of America. What do I want to say about that? What I want to tell you is you are here for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
You are here because you were chosen to be here. And I'm telling you from experience. Now, you get here, and quite often we think like we're not good enough for certain things because we came with the mindset that we had back home. Let me tell you about this nation, something about this great nation. I don't know about any other place, but from my experience and what I lived, what I went through, what I witnessed, all of us in this nation, we can be whatever we choose to be. I'm not saying it just to say it. I am saying it because I've lived it and I continue to live it. By you coming to this nation that offer opportunities to every single human being, there's a reason that we said the United States, this is the nation where dreams come true. There's a reason.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that's the first thing. So you are so blessed to be in this nation. So blessed. Now, the second thing is the power. And Professor, I don't want to change this, but the conversation, but I have to touch in this because we got to talk about the power of dreaming, to dream, how important and relevant it is. Because if you are in this nation and you don't understand how to dream and what it means to dream, you're wasting your time. Literally.
Talk to me about dreams.
And this is what Professor tells us. We were all created to the image of God. This is what Professor tells me. And this is Professor telling in his word. God doesn't create imperfection. God doesn't create anything that's not perfect. It just doesn't. This is not what he does. We are all created in a very perfect way and manner. Now, we just got to go and get it. Whatever it is, we got to go and get it. And this is what dreaming means. So you just got to position yourself, whatever it is. You want to become a lawyer, a banker, an entrepreneur. What? Build it in your mindset. That's all I will say. Now I'll go to the bank. Now, for me, and remember, I told you the image and the praise that I had toward God about seeing myself in this bank before even I knew that I was going to apply. The law of attraction, dream, God. When I got into there, the dream got bigger. All of a sudden, the vice president I became later, day one, I was already that vice president. The manager that I became later, day one, I was. Now, I want to tell you that I did not do it alone. By no mean, I did do it alone. But when you have this dream that's so powerful, God put all the right pieces along your side. He's the one that opened the doors. When you see door being closed, it's just closed. It's not locked. You can go and walk through the door. So that's the power of the dream. So for me, the 18 years that I spent in banking, it was so fast, like 2 days. Because everything that was happening, I already lived it before. Through the power of dream, through the power of the law of attraction. So now, and this is Professor saying again, the day that you will stop learning, this is the day that you will take yourself to your own grave, right? So in life, we learn. And everybody that you meet, again, this is Professor, and this tells you how much time we spend together and how much I
Good.
learned from him.
Uh,
Every person that you meet can be your teacher in some way and can be your student in some way. So don't ever underestimate any human being that come through your path. It doesn't matter if they just got here. It doesn't matter if they're cleaning the toilet. It doesn't matter. When you invest in human being, I guarantee you and I promise you, God will pay it back tenfold. So for me, the journey through the bank, it was just that powerful dream and law of attraction and picturing myself in some situation before even it happened. So next thing, those 18 years felt like 2 days.
Papa, from a teller to a vice president of a bank, now you are a community leader with a very powerful impact on the communities that you serve. Can you tell me what led you to become that leader? What led you to community work?
This is what I'll say. Like, I never thought of myself as a leader, as a community leader, as somebody that will have an impact. Never, never. But, and this is another conversation. But when I take the time to look back into my life, into my journey, when I visited that again, I saw steps, symptoms of leaders back then. But now, when I was in the bank, I just led in, remember, because I'm a firm believer that whoever we are today, whatever we are doing today, there's something in your past that explains it. Remember, I share with you how we were raised, where we got to share everything, we got to care for everything, the value of sharing and caring. So I entered into the banking space with that mindset, right? So I was just helping people. Now, when you help people, it puts you in a position of leadership because now all of a sudden people will start coming and seek. So what I was doing is when African come to cash their check, I will educate them. I will help them open a bank account. I will help them get their first car loan. So I was the banker of the entire African immigrant community because they will go tell other people. And next thing you know, I'll have 30, 40, 50 people waiting for me in the bank lobby. Now, in the process, I start helping people apply to work at the bank. So when I become a manager, I hire African to work in the bank. So I help a lot. So for me, now it all evolved around people because you cannot be a community leader without people. You cannot be a leader without leading people. So for me, when you are investing time in people, thinking like you're wasting your time, you are building yourself, my friend. So for me, the journey that I spent in the bank, where it mainly focused on helping people, providing, educating, make me become relevant because people will come to me, Papa, I need this. And for me, I was having a lot of joy. Remember, I came from a family that I was a nobody. We were poor. To somebody now, all of a sudden, became relevant. To tell you the truth, I loved it. I enjoyed it. Until today, I enjoy it because my life had a purpose. My life had I mean, it means something through other people. For me, that's pretty much what early on, and I start really, when I become a manager at the bank, really being responsible for a branch, being responsible for a team, but also getting proper training, because that's one thing that the bank that I worked back then, and I got to give them credit, which is Wells Fargo, with everything that happened later. But they did an amazing job training us. So I had the best training that I could ever get, and today it's still serving me very well. But for me, that's pretty much what it is, putting yourself in the position to serve people. And again, I will wrap that part with this what Professor will say. The more people you will help get what they want, the more you will eventually get what you want in life. And quote Professor Majama.
But Papa, it is just amazing to really listen to you explain like how that dream came about, but also how it became a reality for you to be a banker, and from that banking job already impacting other people's life. But can you tell me what really led you to create the African Leadership Group?
Well, African Leadership Group started way before all that. And you remember when I usually used to bother you on Sunday to drag you to the soccer field. But look, and as I share with you with my background, it's always around evolved around people, bringing people together. When I got here, I put together a soccer team. I my house was always that's a gathering place, always, and without knowing why, right? And now, when I was at the bank, the image became clear about what people needed and also where I could help people get to the next level. What do I mean by that? For example, I was helping people establish their credit, very transformational, right? I was helping people getting their car loan, very helpful. I was helping people even getting a job at the bank, right? So now at some point, the bank did not like the fact that I was spending 8 hours serving the African community. Now, and we know also sometimes we African we can be loud because there will be people sitting in the bank lobby calling back home and being on the phone and not realizing that it's a professional setting. So all
Yes.
these things is so the bank told me that I couldn't see these people here, and it was not settling very well with me because I knew how important it was and vital. And I said, okay, let me figure out a better way to organize this or where I could send them. Actually, my intention was to find a place where I could send them. And Professor, back then, we only had one African organization was the African Community Center, which is more like a refugees resettlement organization,
I know.
right? Meaning they help you to file for Section 8, they help you to file for food stamp. But what I had in mind, looking at my journey,
Mm-hmm.
was no, how do we come here from being nobody becoming a bank manager? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I wanted something that would create the professional integration of the African immigrant. This is how the African Leadership Group was born. But again, I had no idea what a nonprofit organization meant, how to
Yep.
structure, but it was mainly focusing on health. In fact, I ran the organization for 13 years without funding, but it was always centered around catering and providing need from financial literacy, helping people find a job, immigration lawyer. But also, this is the time also for multi-level marketing. Businesses was big, right? So
I remember.
always trying to find a way to get people the opportunity to have a job and transform their life. But this is how the African Leadership Group was born at the bank.
Now, Papa, can you share with us like specific initiatives or programs that you were able to develop within the African Leadership Group, and which are the ones that really had more impact on the community?
Wow, wow, there's so many. The first one I will share is one early on, while I was still working at the bank, before even I got any funding, right? There was this little girl from Ethiopia, 16 years old, um, that came here, was very sick and needed a kidney transplant,
Mm.
right? There was a lot of money to do the kidney transplant. It was to find the donor, and I don't know where her parents find my name or where they knew about me. They show up to my office at the bank, and with this girl, it's sick, and if we don't help her in 6 months, she's gonna die. And at the time, we needed about $280,000 and find a donor for the kidney transplant.
Oh.
Now, again, I mean, I at that time I don't even have funding, nothing. I was at the bank, right? Now, one thing about me, and I don't know where I got it from, I never say no. Never. Because for me, I, I'm I have the mindset, let me give it a try. And again, it came from how I was raised to never give up. So when they come and talk to me, I did not tell them no. I gave them hope without knowing. So I went to the bank, I called my manager, and we called HR, and I told them about the situation. So we designed a program called, at that time I was working for Compass Bank. We created a program called Compass for your cause, Compass for your bank. So pretty much it was a win-win situation we created, because anybody that opened an account from the community, the bank will donate $150 to the girl. And anytime they swipe their bank card, 5% of the transaction will go to the cause. Professor, I went nuts. So every Sunday and Saturday, I was going from church to churches, setting up table and presenting the cause and opening account like nonstop. Nonstop.
Wow.
We were able to raise a lot of money. We were able to find a donor. We were able to save this life. Today, she's married and have 2 daughters. For me, that's something that I always go back to. Now, I knew about impact before I even know what impact meant, right? I just had no idea. So, and this just came for, in the sense of just trying and having hope, right? For me, that's something that, and this is before ALG get grant or anything. So this is something that's very, very impactful to me. Now, we didn't even get a chance to talk about ALG a lot, but as you know, ALG has 15 different initiatives. Now, Professor,
That's what I wanted you to share.
now again, please just know this. Know this. You won't be able to do it alone. Whatever it is, don't even try.
Success does not happen in isolation.
Don't even try. Don't surround yourself with good people, and that's what I've done. As much we talk about me, as much I'm the face of the organization, there's a lot of people. A lot of people. I have more than 16 different mentors, including professors that help me, guide me, advise me. So I take all that wisdom and put it into one, then it makes me the wisest person in the room, right? And that's what you need, right? Take people wisdom, put it all together, and become the wisest man. Now, but talking about the impact of the African Leadership Group, some of the program that touched me, and again, it all started with a dream and a vision. Professor, the public speaking class. When we started the public speaking class, you and I had no idea that it would become what it is today. None. All I knew was there's a need, right? We African, we speak English with an accent. We have the fear of speaking in public. And I knew the importance of your voice. I know the power of your voice. If you can't speak, you don't exist in this country, right? And we will do interview. We just can't. We can't. So fast forward today with you. We are about to start cohort 17. Have
17.
over 600 people that graduate from this program, where we were initially thinking about African immigrant, and today to have Native American, to have elected official, to have Latino, to have leaders to seek for this training. Professor, I don't know what else to tell you. The impact of I just don't know. I just don't know.
Papa, I don't know why you chose to only share that impact. Look, LG has 13 initiatives, and I think the ones that really people should know is that you are helping people become homeowners. You are helping people getting financial literacy. You are helping people. I mean, the list goes on and on. Like it is so big and so many. That's the impact really I wanted to highlight. Ultimately, what is the goal? Because I know you've done a lot. You've done a lot. But like right now, if you were to think back and then you could start over or do everything again, what would be the things you will focus on more because it is impactful to the community?
So, Professor, one thing you will notice about me and everything that I do, and there's a lot of things that I do, but there are couple of things that are more important to me. One of them is building a stronger community, because I know when you have a community, everything else will fall in place. So while helping people become homeowners is very important, but all those things happen in the community. Because
Yes.
I cannot be successful in that if I don't have people in the community that have the expertise to do that. So for me, I always lead with things that I know when I build one person, at the same time, I build the community. Leadership Africa is one of them. That's my favorite. Breaking barriers and building bridges is one of my favorite. Because for me, when we build that community in the group setting, everything else will fall in place. So for me, the public speaking class, look where we started and where it is today.
Yes.
Leadership Africa, look where we started
And where it is now.
today. Breaking barriers. Yesterday I was going through we started the first workshop in 2019, the breaking barriers. Look where is it today.
Mm-hmm.
So while home ownership is important, helping people get a job is important, scholarship is important, tutoring program is important. But for me, when we build that community where we have everything in that community, we and this is what bring me joy, bring me laugh, bring me smile, energize me. Professor, I love bringing people together. I love when I see today the Black community, when I see the involvement of the Black community in the African Leadership Group, when I see the time you spend with people from the Black community to build them up, when I see the respect and the admiration that they have for you. So for me, if we had to start over, I'll start over with those things.
Okay. This brings me to the last section here. If somebody was listening or watching this and they have in mind, well, if Papa can do it, I can do it too, what would be the biggest lessons that you've learned about leadership, resilience, and service that you would like to pass on to the next generation?
Yeah, and look, there's one thing you probably hear over and over again, over and over, but I'm going to explain it in different terms, right?
Okay.
Because people will tell you, yes, you're going to fail. You're going to fail. Like this is something, but I'm going to explain to you in different terms what it looks like. For me, the first thing is don't start anything without having that vision and that dream. Just don't. Just don't. Just don't.
You know why I'm laughing? I was talking to a young man the other day, and I said, the only way you can succeed in anything is to start with the end in mind. And that end looks like the blueprint. So I guess that's what you were calling vision.
Yeah, yeah. You just gotta you just now it might not be clear, but you gotta have I don't know what to call it. You gotta have some type of aspiration. You just gotta have something.
That's the vision. That's the vision.
So whatever you want to call it. So don't do things on a transaction or one time base. Right now, there's a lot of things that's gonna need. to fall into place for you. For me, that's the first thing. What is
Mm-hmm.
that? What is that end goal? And that end goal could be something for you, something for your family, something for your community, whatever it is. Have that end
Mm-hmm.
goal. For me,
Mm-hmm.
my end goal, it's always been that I wanted to succeed for my family. And for me, that upbringing, being poor, that was my source of motivation. Then I wanted to do well. I was driven for that. And now everything else come into place to where we are today. That's the first thing. The second thing, and we said it and said it and said it again. You can't do it alone. Now, and in the process of doing it alone, you got to
Mm-hmm.
lead into serving. Don't lead into taking. You got to have that mindset, that servant attitude. Before you ask, give. So while you have this vision, go in an environment where your mindset is to give. I'm not here to take, I'm not here to lead, I'm not here to speak, but I am here to serve. Very, very, very important. Either you, I don't know, for you, whatever. Because in that process of service, I promise you and I guarantee you, this is when you're going to learn a lot about yourself while you learn about other people. Because when you are in
Mm-hmm.
that environment, you see other people leading or even trying to lead. So all the mistakes that they're making, and they will treat you badly. And you say, okay, I don't like this. Then you will know what not to do when you are in. So whatever it is, go in that process of service. Very
Absolutely.
important. Very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The, and while you are in that process, remember this, and this is one of Professor's co-facilitators said this all the time. Remember this, stick this in your mind, stick it, stick it. People, people, people. You always
Every
going
group.
to need people.
Wow.
People, people. Today, name it, billionaire, politician, religious leaders, whoever. Don't they have people around them?
They do.
And they still continue to add people around them. So if you are not, or if you cannot put yourself in the position where
Mm.
even your worst enemy, that you look at somebody that you know this person hates me, and you in return, you love them. What I'm talking about is very deep. It's very important when you look at somebody, you know this person hates you, but in return, you love them. And you only have love for them, and you only wish well for them.
Wow.
That's what sets you apart.
Mm-hmm.
Because a leader is not a normal, you're not like the other person. You're not like the others.
No, no.
And there's a lot of example you can use on what I'm talking about. Nelson Mandela is one of them. When he was locked up for many years and when he came out of jail, what did he do?
Forgive.
Forgive, love. Martin Luther King. There's so many people. So for me, while you go into this process, keep those in mind. How can I put myself even when I can love my, because when you can love your worst enemy, you are set. You will love everybody and you will have
Mm-hmm.
people around you all the time. Very
Mm-hmm.
important. Now, you just got to be bold. You got to try. Like I said it earlier, you will see a door being closed.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean it's locked.
I love the way you put it because usually what I was hearing is that when you see a closed door, it just means that you were not supposed to go through that door. It is directing you to the right one. But what you just said is when you see a closed door, just understand that it is closed, but it is not locked. You can still go through it. I mean, both perspectives are absolutely powerful. Papa, we're gonna end with this. If you had 1 extra hour to your day, what would you use it for?
Professor, there's something that people in this country talk about, and it's not, we African, we can't relate to it, but it's real, which is self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we don't know we are in this to run. And for me, if I could have 1 hour in my day, I will use it where I could spend time with my friends, people that are close to me, the Professor Majama, the max. Either we sit down and just, and I'm going to say this in wall of text, when you're going to just have time, just because those days that we used to value so much, that was so meaningful, we just, we took it for granted and we no longer have them.
That is true.
It's just like, it's horrible that anytime we see each other, we feel like it has to be work related, and it doesn't have to be. So for me, 1 hour where I'll unplug and just sit down, go to the soccer field, whatever it is. But I need those friends in my life more than ever. I miss those quality times. Seriously, I miss it. I miss it. I really do. I really do. Where there is nothing in the agenda. For me, if I could have 1 hour in my day, I will use it for that.
Papajar, thank you so much for sharing your journey and insights with us today. Your story is not just inspiring, it is a testament to the power of resilience, leadership, and service. You've shown us that when one person stands up to make an impact, entire communities are lifted. To all our listeners, I hope you are walking away today not only motivated, but ready to ask yourself, how can I use my skills, my voice, my story to lift others? If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe, share, and stay tuned, because this season is packed with more incredible stories of impact. Until next time, keep growing, keep giving, and keep making your mark. But as always, take care of yourself and your loved ones. I am Majama, and this is Mentium. Peace.